Around the world, an estimated 1 million birds and 100,000 marine mammals and sea turtles die each year when they eat littered plastic or become entangled inside of it. Startling statistics like this are a direct result of our lousy national recycling rate, currently standing at 34%, which is well below the rate of our European allies that are recycling at upwards of 50%. But why exactly is recycling a public policy problem? Well, the answer is pretty simple. If we do not accelerate our rate of recycling, we forego jobs, economic development, and tax revenue. The recycling and reuse industry consists of approximately 56,000 establishments that employ well over 1.1 million people, generating an annual payroll of nearly $37 billion. These jobs pay above the national average wage, and many are in inner city areas where job creation is vital. Recycling also decreases greenhouse gas emissions and places less pressure on landfills and natural resources. In 2005, recycling was projected to avoid the amount of carbon emissions by 36 million cars in 1 year. In 1996, 130 million cubic yards of material were diverted from landfills due to recycling and composting. If this amount of material had not been recycled, the US would have needed an additional 64 landfills. If we continue to pile up trash, the greenhouse gas emissions will contaminate the air we all breathe and have an adverse effect on our lungs, significantly impacting our health and well-being. Gases escaping from landfills have toxic pollutants that can cause cancer, asthma, and other health problems. When the benefits of recycling are so evident, why do we not have the self-control to do it more often? It turns out, the answer to this question is pretty straightforward and breaks down to 3 key reasons. First on the list, a lack of motivation. Americans can be lazy when it comes to recycling. Upon deciding whether or not to recycle, many of us simply think, why bother? Our conscience does not provide the nudge necessary to toss our Pepsi-Cola can into the recycling bin. Second on the list, a lack of resources. Many Americans think recycling is too time-consuming and not worth the additional effort. People do not want to pay the extra cost for recycling services, extra time finding recycling centers, or exert extra mental effort to discern which products are suitable for recycling and which products are not. Picture Rebecca walking down the sidewalk finishing her soda. Rebecca sees a nearby trash can in a recycling bin a couple blocks down. But imagine poor little Rebecca is late for class and unsure if her can is recyclable. It does not take a recycling expert to predict that Rebecca will toss her Pepsi can in the conveniently placed trash can as opposed to the faraway recycling bin. By the time we consider recycling, our self-control muscle is simply too deflated. The final stop on the list is a lack of focus on long-term goals. Our individual decision to recycle is too far separated from its consequences. Most Americans are shielded from seeing the long-term, destructive environmental impacts of not recycling. So, if recycling is a self-control problem, how do we arm Americans with the necessary and proper tools to exert more self-control? First, we must recognize that recycling is a self-control dilemma and reorient ourselves to see the long-term impacts on both ourselves and the environment. This can be accomplished by conducting public awareness campaigns that reach all corners of society. Second, we must also increase motivation and resources. One step to increase motivation is to change the situation. We can create penalties for short-sighted behavior by imposing fines on those who do not recycle. We can also provide rewards for those who do recycle. If an individual recycles over a certain amount, they can be eligible to receive tax breaks. Companies and schools can also provide rewards. For example, companies can give gift cards to employees who recycle the most. The media can also help to increase motivation. If commercials show that others recycle and emphasize that recycling is indeed a social norm, there is a greater chance the general public will recycle as well. A second step to accelerate recycling is to increase resources. Putting a recycling bin right next to the trash can or making the trash can smaller will persuade people to think of recycling first. So, to provide a quick recap of what we have learned today. First on the list, recycling is indeed a public policy problem. Second, failing to recycle happens because of a collective lack of self-control. Third, to increase self-control, we must recognize our own lack of self-control, orient ourselves towards considering the long-term consequences, and increase the motivation and resources necessary to solve this public policy problem.
Created using Powtoon.